Good morning, this is Mrs. Wyrick, and today we're learning about Unit 6, Lesson 1, Positive Exponents. I want you to take a look at these two numbers right here. Together, these two numbers are called a power. This 4 down here is actually called our base. And this 3 right here is actually called our exponent. Today we're learning about positive exponents. So we're learning mostly about these numbers right here and what they tell us. This base right here tells us what number we have to use as a factor. And this exponent number tells us how many times we need to use this base as a factor. Let me show you some examples. 2 to the 5th power is written out as 2, 5 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and multiplied together. Now I want you to make a prediction. Is this going to give me the answer of 10 when I evaluate it, or the answer of 32? 10 or 32? Let's see. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 more is 8. And 8 times 2 more is 16. And 16 times that last 2 is 32. Now let's take a look at this power over here, 5 cubed. Notice that I said cubed. When I see a 3 as an exponent, instead of saying 5 to the 3rd power, I can also say 5 cubed. Now remember, this base tells me what factor I'm going to use, and this exponent tells me how many times I'll be using that number as a factor. So let's go ahead and write this problem out so we can evaluate it. 5 times 5 times 5. Now, do you think my answer will be 15 or 125? Take a guess, 15 or 125? Let's see. 5 times 5 is 25. Oh, we're already over 15. And 25 times 5, if I have 5 quarters, I have $1.25 or 125 cents. So, my answer is 125 when I evaluate 5 cubed. Let's take a look at some trickier problems. You might see a problem like this, the opposite of 3 to the 4th power. This one is tricky and also different from this problem where I have my -3 inside parentheses. Your exponents will only be used to evaluate the numbers that it is directly next to. Unfortunately, this one says the opposite of 3 to the 4th. So we're going to go ahead and work out 3 to the 4th power and then take the opposite of it. 1, 2, 3, 4 3's written down and multiplied together. Now, 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 more is 27, and 27 times 3 more is 81. What is the opposite of 81? And if you remember the distributive property, I need to multiply this times everything inside this parentheses. So since this is a -1, I need to multiply -1 times positive 81, and I get -81. As you can see, when I work out this problem over here, the quantity -3 raised to the 4th power, that's actually written like this. -3 times -3 times -3 times another -3. Notice that I used multiplication signs. You can also take those multiplication signs out if you use your parentheses, because parentheses next to each other means to multiply. Let's go ahead and evaluate this. I have a negative times a negative, which is a positive times a negative, which is a negative, and a negative times a negative, which is a positive. So already I know my answer is going to be different because it's going to be a positive number. Now, 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27, and 27 times 3 is still 81. But my answers are different because in this one I used parentheses, and in this one I did not. Notice this is negative 81, and this is positive 81. Last but not least, I'm going to show you an example of fraction. Use exponents with fractions. Now remember what I mentioned about the distributive property and powers being outside of the parentheses? Since the power was outside the parentheses, I needed to distribute it times whatever was inside the parentheses. So 3 will be my exponent of this 1 and also of this 2. I can rewrite it so that it says 1 cubed over 2 cubed. Now I can evaluate it. 1 times 1, oops, so erase that. 1 times 1 times 1 over 2 times 2 times 2. And if I evaluate that, I get 1 over 8, because 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. So 1/2 raised to the third power, or 1/2 cubed, is equal to 1/8. Now let's take a look at this one over here. 3/5 squared. I need to use my 3 2 times as a factor. So 3 times 3 over my 5 used 2 times as a factor. And when I evaluate that, I get 9/25. Let's try out some more problems on the board.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.